Welcome to Spaces of Belonging, a branch of Find Your Place in the Sun, where I will be sharing wellness content and practices, and will also host practitioners and facilitators from around the world to share their gifts with you. I'm your host, Shalini Tiwari, and today I'm talking with Karina Schelde. Karina is an internationally recognized pioneer and master teacher in voice healing therapy, using the human voice as the ultimate instrument for personal development. A dynamic and passionate workshop leader, educator, researcher, and presenter, Karina has synthesized over 30 years of professional experience in alternative healing into her groundbreaking soul voice method. Her professional background includes holistic counseling, breathwork, bodywork, shamanic healing, acting, and stage directing. And Karina facilitates soul voice experience seminars, practitioner and teacher certification programs, supervision and leadership trainings, outreach, and pilot projects. Welcome, Karina. All right, I am here today with Karina Schelde, and I'm really excited to learn more about your work. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Karina.
Thank you, Shalini, for inviting me. I'm here in New Zealand on a fresh, sunny morning. I look so much forward to this interview.
Let's get started. So I'd love for you to describe to our audience how you would explain the soul voice method in its essence.
Well, the soul voice method in its essence, it's really about working with the voice and the sound language. See, we have a sound language within us that we have forgotten. We are sound vibration into our core. So it is quite effective and magical when you know what you're doing to work with the voice, because it can really go into our inner systems very fast. And that is what soul voice is about in essence. It has the ability, with all the exercises and techniques that I have created, to penetrate, to permeate into the body, into the cellular level, into the depths of who we are emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. So it can really do quite some magic quite quickly when we know what we are doing.
So, can you share how you believe, or what you believe to be the importance to heal through the body, and what that means, like how to come into the core through the body to heal, and how Soul Voice does that? Could you share a little bit about that?
Yes, how the soul voice and method is coming into the embodiment, the somatic part of our existence. It is exactly what we are doing, because there is a link from that what is our guidance, our higher consciousness, into our consciousness, into our limbic brain, which is where our feelings and our senses are dwelling, and then into the reptilian brain, where the reptilian instinctive self is often what we are forgetting to actually weave these four levels of consciousness, or these four levels of our brain, so that we can be spiritual in our instinctive self and in our emotional body. Soul voice works with going the whole way down to the emotional body, to the senses, to the instinctive primal and primordial self, which we also consist of, but we often cut off somewhere in the middle of the body and does not come to the real depths within.
So, is it like you would say a bridge from that reptilian sort of survival mode of awareness into a much more parasympathetic, relaxed state of higher consciousness?
Yeah, it is bridging all these levels. I have experienced that the bridge is from all levels. That means that what is important in the soul voice method to develop is our intuition. For me, the intuition is not only, of course, separated, related to our guidance and our higher consciousness and our consciousness, but it's related to be able to sense on a deeper or greater level all our senses, all our emotions, all our feelings. All our emotions are actually embedded in our cellular memory. It's like all what we go through in life has a sound vibration, you could say.
Hmm.
So in the soul voice method, we tap into that memory box, if we could say that, so that we can really heal and release that what we carry of suppression, of inadequacy, of not being confident, of being fearful, and you name it. So the voice, the sound, has the ability to go into this emotional layers where it is often that we are cutting off in our mental or in our guidance, to go into the sensations, to go into the emotions, to go into the rawness and the wildness, you could say, sometimes, of course, untamed self, because
Mhm.
this is what we need. We need the spontaneity, our inner child to show in this, because it's not only serious what we're doing, right? It's also playful, because we have to take this deep work light at the same time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's so beautiful. And so it felt like it's like a tool to access these spaces that might not otherwise be accessed through thinking it or, talk therapy, that kind of thing. And even just embodiment practices, this is actually us touching upon those parts of us through our voice. Mm,
Yes, yes,
beautiful.
yes,
So
yes.
you mentioned that there's a loss of our true voice. So after touching all these parts that you just described, what is our true voice and why did we lose it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Why did we lose our true and authentic voice that we had eventually as a child? Like I watch and are fascinated about children, how they are vulnerable, how they are authentic in the moment, how they shift from one activity or one emotion to another, how they are alert, that is instinctive, right? How they are in their emotions and in their expression, the vocal expression like this. They actually use 60% of the subconscious, where the adults use about 10 to 15, and the subconscious is where the emotions and the sensations and the instincts and the real dream time and intuition has its seats. So we have so much to learn from that true voice that I hear in the children. And because of our grown up and all our structures, our civilization, we have to live up to this, we have to control this, and then we come into all our inadequacies and our judgment, and then we have to follow this and this and this, and then we don't know who we are any longer, because we have to do this, so we have to follow this, or be like the others, instead of hear our own true, innate, spontaneous voice, which does come from our child and our childhood. And even if you had a childhood that was not so beautiful or not so harmonious, all this can be released and unraveled. But it is the core of the inner child that is full of wonder, full of curiosity, innocence, honesty, and sensitivity,
Mm,
vulnerability,
mm,
that we need to come back to function better out from the heart.
Mm.
and to, really go into the heart energy and combine this with our physicality and all the underlying emotions and our mental and our consciousness and our guidance.
Mm. And playfulness, as you mentioned
Yeah,
before.
playfulness, absolutely. Yes, 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 yes.
That's key for
Yes,
me.
yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. How they can laugh and cry, these children, and just like
Mm.
this, in 2 minutes, it's over. Yeah, let's move on. Just
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and a real sense of acceptance and belonging that just is
yeah,
innate. Yeah.
yeah. The
Mm.
belonging, when we start to sound, we come into that unitedness, and
Mm.
that belongingness, that sounds unites, it releases, it brings us back to the core. And yeah, belonging is also for me the rootedness to this planet, or to where we belong, in
Mm.
our home, in our community. Really, the grounding is so important today. Soul voice grounds you a lot.
Mm.
Today, embody it.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah, so I'm very curious to hear you share about deep inner listening and what that means in soul voice and how to access that.
Mm. What deep inner listening means in soul voice, in sharings, in communication, in our sound language, is that we are training, I am training humanity, people are, how to listen with our entire body as a listening ear. Imagine that we have ears in all our organs, in our skin, in our feet, and all over. Actually, there's a scientist, Alfred Tomatis, who devoted 50 years of his life to scientifically research listening and the ear's function. And the listening is the most important sense, although for us in our world, it's normally the seeing sense. But the listening is the most important because it unites us into all our inner systems, our immune system, our respiratory system, all our inner organs, all the essential nerves that go through us. The better we listen, the more healthy our inner system becomes.
Mm.
And the better communicators we become, because the listening is often lacking. Yes, we want to have our own point of view through, but if we cannot be receiving the other person, I would say through their soul, because that's what we work with in soul voice. We work with the soul essence, which is our guidance also, but in our voice is the tone of voice. And the tone of voice is actually a part of our soul, is what we feel in the moment. So I train people how to become clear audient. That means listen clearer to the tone of the voice, so that we can become better communicators and we can receive each other and we can be heard and we can give the power back to also the person who is communicating.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And often, we listen to respond rather than really receive what is being shared. So I love just that sense of expressing our own tone and being with the other in that real truth of who we are, as opposed to all the different layers that get in the way of our true essence.
Yes.
Mm.
Wonderful.
So,
Yes.
can you share how someone who practices soul voice methods and techniques can access and unleash their creativity and true potential?
Yes. How are you accessing and releasing the true potential of what you really want to be and what you really want to get across? It is related to what I have already talked about in a way. because for me, the true creative potential comes from the depths of our body. It is what we also call the hara, or the subconscious. We can not only express it through our mind, consciousness, and our heart, we do need to sink into what is the embodiment of our creation. It's like a birthing process. There's a lot of birthing energy in soul voice because we go to these steps. And birthing for me goes to these subconscious steps. And that's where you really become creative. When we talk about the inner male and the inner female and the inner male, that what is our inner yin and our inner yang, each time they have a playing duo, there is a new child born. When we can really weave this, what is our masculine, that is more, the mental and the outgoing, with the feminine, the sensitivity, the feeling into it, the more embodiment, and these two becomes woven. And then the inner child of the depth, spontaneity, and playfulness, and bursting out with a new project or a new potential gets really born. It's like I sense that each exercise in the soul voice method has so much ripple effect, because it's that creation, it's the creation of life that we work with. The sound again goes right in, if we know what we're doing. It goes to these creations. We're so alive and full of creation all the time, and we can use it through this innate specific soul voice work that I have created over the years, or many decades actually.
Yeah. Nice, thank you. Yeah, and you speak of the, coming back to that playfulness, and then that burst of creativity is available to us when we can access that. So that innocence and wonder of a child, you speak of getting to that place. So how can you give a sense of how does one, I mean, I know you've described the effects of using soul voice to get to that, but can you give us a little sense of how to do that really through soul voice?
So how to come in contact with that wonder, that innocence, that inner child. I think relaxation is a very important element, and safety, because just to open up your mouth wide open and let it come out, what is there, and freeing the voice can be very exposing, and people can be shy for coming in. And for some people in the beginning, it can be sort of silly and weird sounds. And how do you do some? It's not like we are doing games as we did when we were a child, but we do something that you could say is less serious, or even gets you to laugh very easily, or the sense of that you can laugh of yourself and not take yourself so serious, because we have so much control. We want control, and in sound, you cannot do it wrong. Isn't that a freedom? Send your inner judge on a holiday, I say. So anything that is coming out in the sound language, in the vocal expression, you let it flow and you listen to it, because truly each sound and vocal expression has a message to you. That means you're listening inside. So you cannot do it wrong. So this is a key to coming in and playing with that. It's right. It's no matter what your education was, or somebody told you could not sing. Of course you can sing. You just need to have the techniques unraveled, and you can sing. Everybody can. They just need to go through some emotional layers that has been blocked, so that they keep this programming that they cannot sing, or they're not good enough, or anything else.
And then it sounds like, though, this goes well beyond, just the ability to sing, you know,
through sounding and accessing and testing and playing with our sound, I imagine it's a journey that we find, and it's not about sounding beautiful or perfect, but actually just seeing what's there.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Amazing. And so you have a quote, our voice will remember what we have forgotten. Can you share what that means for you and for the soul voice method?
We will remember what we have forgotten. Yeah, I sense in a way it's an essence of what we actually have talked about. So it's a very good question. Because I said earlier that all our life experiences are like memories in our cellular body that is like a record in sound vibration. So how to tap into those vibration in the body through all these different ways that I have been researching it and really coming into all facets of it. So to remember is also in a way to what I call kiss the frog. That means kiss the shadow. The frog is this ugly part. I don't want to come in contact with it. I've had for 20 years or 2 years or the last 2 weeks, and I just, oh, it's nagging me. I just want to come in contact with it. I say, kiss the frog, kiss this ugly thing, the shadow. That means give it 100% of yourself. Give it all the sounds that you have, of course, with some guidance. And then you will come to remember. You'll come to remember, why did I keep this in my body for so long? What holds me back? And of course, it's not just to take it out of the body, because that is a part of the operation also to come in to remember. It is also about wanting to transform and to change our life and our lifestyle, because when we start to change our body cellular constitutions, things in daily life, of course, is changing. That's the meaning. So it's about initiating and wanting to transform and change for the highest best, of course.
Yeah, and that brings me to the last question. So you mentioned, in doing all this, what are some of the lifestyle effects that people have shared with you and expressed since doing your work? What are some of the changes that they enjoyed?
If we start with the physical, pains can literally be taken out by the sound vibration. Any physical pain, lower back or headache, of course you have to work with it over time. Also, if you have a chronic lower back or a chronic headache or anything that is chronic, but anything that is physical in the body, you get a lot of stamina and your charisma gets enhanced. It's like you become alive again, but really alive. It's like this detoxification, a natural detoxification. And you come into areas that you didn't know, and you come into a voice that you didn't know you had, which is, yes, going into the emotional body, because without going into the emotional body and clearing our grief and fear and anger and frustration and allowing us to express our pleasure and our joy and our bliss and our wildness. That is what people are coming into, that authentic realness that dwells in the heart, and behind the heart is all our feelings and emotions. So this has a huge ripple effect that we work so deep with the emotional body. Then everything falls into place when you can access the emotional body. But of course, the busy mind and the mental, it becomes clear so fast as you start to do this work. So that means that you see clearer your path and your potentials, and these programmings or this whatever beliefs that you don't, that doesn't serve you any longer, can be revealed and released. Again, coming back to the true self, and truly the inner guidance become much more authentic and clearly spoken to you, because you go through all these layers we've talked about. So communication gets enhanced, both professional as well as personally. How you communicate, how you listen, how you are a better receiver and giver in your relationship, in your family life, and in your intimate relationships. So these are just some of that what comes up to me. I mean, there's many, and we know that this is a step-by-step process to get this to be more sustainable and permanent. You do need to work with your voice and with your sound vibration for that to become more sustainable. All these effects that I was talking about.
So it is obviously an ongoing process.
Yes.
And would you say though that the effects, certain effects, are felt after, a short workshop with you, and yeah.
Absolutely. The self-confidence, the self-esteem, feeling your vocal expression. You can do anything. I often hear this, after a couple of hours, well, now I can do anything, because this suppression that has been there so long has suddenly been freed. And then they start to listen, well, what do I want to do with this new power and this new wisdom that I'm coming into, and the new self-care also, which is so important.
Right.
So there's lots of effects here.
I mean, I know personally, I had a very small taste of Soul Voice for over 2 days, and I felt such a deep and profound effect in my system of just being like a clearing, as you mentioned. It really felt like I had shed away some layers of things that were getting in the way of accessing my true potential, and that was only 2 days. So so I'm really looking forward to working with you further. And is there anything you would like to say to close this space right now?
What actually just came up was the breath and the breathing, because of course one of the first practices is, how can we get a more resonant voice that is embodied in our chambers, our lower abdominal, our upper abdominal, and our chest muscles, and our whole spine? How can we get this voice and sound fully into be embodied? And that starts with the breath. So I start how to the participants, how to get them fully into an embodied breath, which is also about coming into the body, and then you can resonate from there more and more your inner power and your inner resonance, and you can let go and you can let go from there. But that's an important key to open up the inner chambers to the depths of our being, to be more full and resonant step by step in our vocalization and in our voice expressions.
That certainly sounds like a great place to start, and a very easy access point for everyone who understands the breath and the importance of breath. So yeah, with that, I'd love to just take a deep breath with you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here today, and for sharing your work, and for gifting this to the world. I really appreciate it.